You are listening to the Nirvana Podcast, Episode 3, Bleach, Side A. Hello everybody and welcome to the Nirvana Podcast. My name is Sietse.
And I'm Juditja.
And in this podcast we talk about the band Nirvana. That's what we do.
Yes.
First two episodes we did were more focused on the history of the band. But this time things are a bit different because we're going to talk about Nirvana's debut album Bleach. And we're going to focus a bit more on the music this time.
Yes, looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. Nevertheless, would you mind giving a short recap of the previous episode?
Yes, definitely. Last episode we talked a bit about, the real birth of Nirvana, the moment that Kurt and Chris started to play together, and the various incarnations of their band with different weird names. Different drummers, rehearsing a lot, trying to get gigs, messing them up. And also how Kurt tried to find a label to release a single or an album, and eventually got interest from Sub Pop, the label he didn't send a demo to, but who were quite new and were really interested in Nirvana, and offered them eventually to release their first single, Love Bus, and after that, that's where we are now, basically.
Yeah, that's right. I think after the single got released, they did a small tour, which wasn't very successful.
No.
Some gigs had to be cancelled because there was no audience at all, or just a few people showed up, and they didn't really hit it big just yet, which isn't surprising.
People didn't know them yet, and because that single was only available for the Sub Pop Singles Club members, which was a great idea and successful, but still was only, I think, about 2,000 people or whatever.
Yeah, I think 1,200.
1,200, it's even
copies
less.
were made. Yeah.
So that means that that's not a huge crowd to also get into concerts. So yeah.
But still, the single was well received, and it eventually led to the opportunity for them to record a full album. Or actually, at first, it was supposed to be an EP.
Yep.
I still haven't really figured out that story.
No, I think that Sub Pop wanted them to do an EP first. For people who have no idea, I think we touched a bit upon it last time, but an EP is basically a shorter version. It's somewhere in between a single and a full LP, so like 6 numbers, something like that. I can only assume that Sub Pop, who were just starting out and didn't have a lot of cash yet and didn't know exactly how sales would go, probably thought, let's just start small and then increase the volume. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. Why
they wanted to do an EP. EPs were obviously also cheaper to buy. So maybe they thought people will maybe want to shell out a few dollars for a band they don't really know, but not the full price. Could be.
Yeah. Possibly, or maybe they weren't confident that Nirvana had enough good songs to put on there.
Could be.
Maybe they underestimated Kurt's songwriting abilities.
Yep.
Because he had written a lot of songs. Because there's older demo tapes we've talked about in a previous episode, full of songs that didn't make the cut for the album. So he came up with a lot of new songs. Maybe that's why they thought, let's take it easy at first. But anyway, it led to them starting the recording sessions on Christmas Eve 1988. The quote that belongs to that fact is that Chris later said in an interview, because they didn't have anything else to do at Christmas Eve.
Aww.
Yeah, it's a bit sad. But they went to Reciprocal Studios to work with Jack and Dino, who had recorded them twice before.
Yep.
That same year, because in January they recorded their first demo with him, and in the summer month they recorded the single and some extra tracks as well. And that eventually led to the album that we all have come to know as Bleach. Although I have a little confession to make. When I first discovered this album when I was around 14, 15 years old, for a time I thought it was called Blech. Like a sound of repulsion or something like that, because I didn't know the word bleach.
No, that makes sense that you didn't know. I've always been a bit taken aback by the fact that bleach is printed in inverted commas, like as if it's a quote, which I never really understood why they did that.
Yeah, maybe because they wanted to make clear that the band was called Nirvana and the album was called Bleach and not the other way around.
Could be.
I mean, Bleach could have been the name of a band as well.
Right,
it's
true.
better than Ted, Ed, Fred or
Exactly. Could be.
other names they discarded. Apparently, the working title for the album, or at least the title that Kurt played around with, was Too Many Humans.
That's a great title.
Yeah.
I love that.
But somewhere on tour they saw a poster hanging that told junkies to bleach their works because they wanted to prevent the AIDS epidemic.
Works refers to needles, not to,
their job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or something else.
Yeah. Yeah, and then apparently they joked about it. So I thought, well, if things are going this way, the bleach may become a very valuable substance, and somehow the word stuck with Kurt Cobain.
It's a good word, and also I think it really fits the album cover as well, because they have that photo on there that's inverted. Like the black
negative.
Negative. It's black and white's the other way around, so that feels like bleached somehow. So
that's true.
Fits.
Yeah. Also, if you look at the cover, you can see 4 guys, 3 of which we already knew. Kurt Cobain, of course, Chris Novoselic, and the drummer of the time, Chad Channing. But the guy on the right with the long curly hair, he's new in the band, or actually at time of the recordings he wasn't even in the band.
No.
It's a guy called Jason Everman. He is credited in the original version of the album as a guitarist. Now right in front of me I have the 20th anniversary edition. There he isn't featured as a guitarist anymore. It's just as a special thanks to Jason Everman. He doesn't play on the album, but he was very important because he coughed up the money to have it made.
Actually, he played with them live a couple of times, so that's why he is on.
Yeah, but only after the album had already been finished.
Exactly.
I believe he worked for 3 years as a fisherman, something like that.
Really?
Canada,
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, on a boat.
Right. Okay.
And that's why he had some money, because the other guys were broke all of the time. That's why he had some money. I think he played with Chad in another band before, so they knew each other. And he agreed to lend them the money to make the album, because, well, the record label didn't have it either. That says a lot as well. So he coughed up the amazing amount of $606.17, which it apparently cost to make this album, which isn't completely true, I think, because also on there is the single Love Buzz, and they had already paid for that some extra money. And some of the earlier demos are on this album as well, and I think they had paid for that separately, but still it's an amazingly cheap.
It's a cheap album.
Yeah, I think I've read somewhere that this is probably one of the albums in music history that gained the most money in comparison to
what it cost.
What it cost to make.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Somebody
quite
estimated second only to the Sun Records by Elvis.
Right. Yeah.
Which didn't cost basically anything.
Probably not anything. No.
Even less, and it's still selling today.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that what happened with this album is that it didn't sell that well when it first was released, but after the second album was released and Nirvana became a really big band, then lots of people came back to this album and were like, okay, so they made something else as well, let's buy that. And then it so then it really took off.
By the way, the last thing I heard about the money that Jason Everman put into this is that he never got repaid.
Aww.
Not even when they were the biggest rock band in the world. They
And maybe there's one thing we need to say before we start with the first song, because we're dividing it in A side and B side.
Oh, right.
So we're doing just the A-side. Again, for people who aren't used to LPs, that's what you get when you have like a front side and a back side. Look it up on the internet.
I'm from the CD generation, so I'm familiar with the term, and also I like playing vinyls now, but I didn't grow up playing them. But
no, and back then, because you knew you would have that A-side and B-side, and on cassettes as well, they had an A-side and B-side as well, you had to think about which songs would go on what side. We're now using the 20th anniversary version. That's slightly different from the original version that was released 20 years before that. We'll get to that later, but that also means that there's a slight difference between A-side and B-side. But this is one that is generally on release now. You can find it on Spotify, whatever. So it makes sense to use this version.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, that's not only the case for the 20th anniversary CD. It's just a re-release they did in the early 90s.
That's true.
So they put on 2 extra songs. So we're just going to talk about the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. So here we go. Let's have a listen to the opening track called Blue.
I love this song. It's it's the opening song. I think we talked about this like the first episode that I got this album on cassette for my cousin. So that meant like no skipping to other songs or whatever. You just started at the first song and you played it all the way through to the end. And this is such an amazing opening, I think. I mean, imagine getting a cassette tape for the very first time and pressing play and then hearing this, and it's like, okay, so this is kind of cool. I want to hear the rest of it. I think this is like, it's a really amazing opening because there's familiar sounds in there. You feel that metal sound a bit going on in there, but at the same time, it's so different from a lot of stuff that went on in that period, mainly I think because of the really clear sound and the melody that comes in there, that it's really great song.
You just said that it's a great opener for the album. The band itself wanted to have this song as the last track on Bleach. But they got overruled by the label, who completely changed the order of the songs, and now it's the opening. Do you think this is the best song to open the album with?
I'd say so. Yeah. I mean, there might be other songs that could have worked as well, but I think that this is a song that showcases both their heavy side and their melodic side. So I think it's a great showcase for them, and it's also it has a great hook that really pulls you in. So yeah.
I think they kept on playing it live for the next years, and but usually at the end of their set. So I think for the band it was still better as something to as a closure.
But I can imagine that it would really work as a closing track as well. Especially in concerts when you know it, then it's like, oh yes, now they're gonna play this one, and it's a great one to go out on. So
tuning of the track is a story of itself. It sounds really, really heavy and really, really low. That's because it's in a bit of a strange key. What they did a lot on this album and on other albums as well is they tuned down their guitars half a step. But the story for this song is that they wanted to do that and they forgot that they already
did it.
So it's a complete step below regular tuning of a guitar. Also they play it in drop D, which means that you tune down the low E string of your guitar. So it makes an even lower sound. What do you think? Does it work?
Well, for me it works because especially for this song, I think the fact that it's even lower in C in this case, gives it that extra edge. You immediately, even if you have like no knowledge of music theory, or you don't play an instrument or whatever, you sort of hear immediately that the sound is different. So I think that works for this song. I don't know if there's we've talked about this before, there's a lot of stories and myths, and I have no idea if they really did that by accident or maybe they did it on purpose. I mean, they tried a lot with different tunings throughout their career. Like you said, they were great musicians, knew what they were doing. Apparently the recording sessions went really professional and smooth. So I would assume that maybe they already tried this before, and maybe the idea of, we did this by accident is a nice myth, but we'll never know. We weren't there, and it doesn't really matter.
No, well, I kind of, I'm having troubles believing it as well, because, like you said, they were professional musicians. They were a lot more professional, I think, than they wanted people to think about them. I mean, their live shows were really energetic and chaotic and all over the place at times. But in the studio, every producer they worked with said that they were professionals. They knew what they wanted to do.
I think also that the producer, what was his name again?
Jack Endino,
said that when they did these sessions, they were so much more professional than like the 2 times before, that they now really... They knew what they were doing. They'd rehearsed. They were really... So, I mean, that fits...
Also, I mean, the producer would say, "Hey, now you're in a different key. Are you sure you want to do that?" Yeah, but I think they wanted to project the image of, no, we're just fooling around. And I think in one interview later, Kurt even said that they never rehearsed, which isn't
true.
No, which isn't true at all. They rehearsed a lot, especially around this time when they were just starting up the band.
But it's that myth that a lot of people have of like, if you're like good at something creative and it feels like it's natural to you, then you're better than somebody who really rehearsed and tried and whatever. Like what you read last time from his diaries, like, I never learned to read music and stuff like that. So many people say that as if like, I'm more special because I don't know how to read music, but I can really.
But also it's a nicer story to hear.
Exactly.
I mean, people love stories. They're coming from nowhere. But I don't believe people come from nowhere. If you look into their real story, pretty much everybody had put in effort and had projects before that maybe didn't hit it off just yet. But you know. People just don't come out of the blue.
No,
I'd like to say.
Totally true.
Also, with the tuning, is an interesting earlier version. I think it was recorded during those Love Bus sessions when they were in the studio to record their single, in which they play the same song in a different key. It's higher. There's also a live version in which they use another key. Okay, so here's the original version as it is on Bleach, like we just heard. Then we go to the demo. And we go to the live version.
It's also nice to hear the different pacing of those 3 versions. That the early version is quite slow, which I think works less, to be honest. But
I totally agree that it's a nice opener. I also think there's some interesting lyrics on here. In my notes I wrote down the line, "Here's another word that rhymes with shame." I think it's interesting. It's funny. It's sort of clever, but also it's self-referring to the process of writing. And Kurt did that quite a lot.
Yeah,
I immediately had to think about the line from On a Plane, it's now time to make it unclear, to write off lines that don't make sense. Or in Stay Away, where you write, every line ends in rhyme, I don't know why.
Yep.
I think it's quite cool.
Yeah. This song also, and that's also why I think it's a great opener and a great showcase for what Nirvana is and would become, is that the end of the song, because that has that repeat line of "you could do anything." He keeps repeating that, and that's something that comes back in a lot of songs, repeating a line over and over, especially at the end. That's really Nirvana-like. So
yeah, cool. So let's move on to the next track, which is the track that the band wanted to have as an opener. It's called Floyd the Barber. So, do you think this one would work better to open the album, or doesn't it really matter?
No, this could have been an opener as well, because I think it also fits a lot of the things that makes the band interesting. Again, a really heavy sounding intro, and then it goes to a more melodic part. But it takes a lot longer to get to that melodic part, and also I think that the really heavy intro that this one has is more traditional, I'd say. Yeah. So that makes it slightly less interesting.
Yeah, it's a bit of a boneheady riff, I think.
Yeah, it's it's really classic heavy metal light.
Yeah, it is. Oh, that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
And also that, like, the fact that the drums and the bass have like the same rhythm, that makes it really stern and
Yeah. Speaking of drums, it's not Chad Channing who's drumming on this track. It's Dale Crover, because this is one of the songs that's actually like a newly mixed version of their earlier demo. In January 1988, they did a recording session, recorded a demo that basically got them the attention from Sub Pop.
Yep.
They couldn't really get it right to record it again, or at least they like this version better.
Yep.
Mainly because of the drummer, I think.
Because, yeah.
Well, we've talked a lot about them changing drummers all of the time, but at this point, Chad Channing was their drummer, and he stayed for a couple of years, I think maybe 2 years or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
But they weren't really happy with his drumming, at least on this song.
No, like you said, they did try to record this one, but it seems that Chad himself agreed that they should use the earlier version. I don't know if he really agreed or if he
was forced to agree.
Exactly. I'm sure we will get to this later when we get the new drummer in Nirvana.
Yeah.
Guess who that is? But
it's Dave Grohl.
Oh,
from the Foo Fighters.
Don't tell him.
No.
Was a surprise.
They don't exist yet. We're in 1989.
Exactly. It is interesting if you take a close listen to the drumming of Dale and the drumming of Chad, that you hear a style difference, and that even though both of them are great drummers, that you can sort of get why Kurt probably preferred Dale's drumming, just style-wise, and that later on when they got to Dave, they sort of got back to that sound.
Yeah, that's right. Also, I think Dale Crover wrote the drum parts for this song, so maybe Chad Channing was having problems in exactly copying it, because he didn't have a lot of space to make his own version of it, or his own interpretation.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
If nobody had ever told me that it was the earlier demo version, in a new mixing and a different drummer, I wouldn't have noticed at all.
I don't think that if you listen closely to the mix, this is a bit more subdued, I think. But that also has to do with the drumming, because Chad is his drumming sounds lighter. That's a slight difference that you can hear. So if you want to take a closer listen at home, then try to listen for those differences, and you'll probably hear it if you listen close enough.
Yeah, I just said that the guitar riff that drives the song is, I think it's a bit stupid actually, because that's such a generic metal riff.
Yeah.
But I do think that it works very well in combination with the lyrics, which is really strange actually. For those who don't know it, Floyd the Barber is a character from a TV show called The Andy Griffith Show from the 1960s. I've never watched it, have you?
No.
But to give you and our listeners an impression, I have lined up the soundtrack of the show and also a short clip from one of the scenes. So we get an impression of what kind of show it was. Slightly different than the Nirvana song.
They didn't sample that.
Good morning, Floyd.
Oh, hello, Clara. Sit down. Claire, rest yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, and nice day.
Yes. The humidity's a little high, though, isn't it?
Oh, you're neuralgia, huh?
Yes.
That stuff really hangs on. 25 years now, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like basically a cheesy comedy, family-friendly comedy show. But I don't know how he got the idea, but in his song, Kurt Cobain has all these characters from the Andy Griffith show up, and they basically cut him to pieces, sexually assault him. I mean, how do you come up with stuff like that?
I'd say drugs and alcohol.
Yeah,
perhaps.
maybe.
And just a lively imagination.
Yeah. I think it's funny, but it's also a bit unnerving, I think. Yeah, and you could take it as a joke, or you could take it as an expression of something a bit deeper. I mean, having people from a family TV show abuse him. Maybe they watched that show when he was young.
Yep, could be.
I don't know. It's
or he just wanted to shock people by using characters that they loved and then making something horrible out of it.
Yeah. In the end, I think the balance tips towards funny for me, but maybe that says some troubling things about me. But
well, I must say, I think that's something that's often overlooked. I think that Kurt is often quite humorous and light in a lot of his lyrics, and people tend to forget that, but he had a great sense of humor, and there's a lot of that in a lot of lyrics, and I think this is one of them, depending on what your kind of idea of humor is. But
yeah, for sure. Also, what I thought was what stood out to me is that in the chorus he morphs the word shaved to shamed, and morphing lyrics is something that he liked to do in a lot of his songs.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
I think most people will know him morphing hello to how low. It's a classic example, of course, from Smells Like Teen Spirit. But he did that a lot. Also, it's the second time in 2 songs that the word shame shows up.
True. I never realized that. That's interesting, actually. If you're writing, like, some words can stand out to you just because they're in the back of your mind, or they sort of fit with the feeling you have. So most likely he didn't even do it on purpose. It was just somewhere that in his mind, and it came up in a couple of songs.
Yeah. Okay. Ready to move to the next track, which is called About a Girl. think most people will know that song as the opener from the legendary Unplugged sessions. Yeah, which version do you like better?
I like this one better, but I think that also has to do with something that I miss in the Unplugged version, which is the vocal overdub that's in this one. Because there is a really interesting harmony there that you almost don't pick up on this one. And I wish they'd done that more often, and also in the Unplugged version, because by then they had Dave Grohl who did some vocals as well.
Yeah.
Because for people who have no idea what I'm talking about, Kurt has like a vocal overdub on the start of every line. And he probably sings "I do" or something like that.
Yeah.
It sounds like "I do." So he starts the harmony starts just before the real first line. And then you hear him keep that note in the back, and he sings over that note, which makes a really nice harmony. But for some weird reason, it's really in the back of the mix, so you have to listen really clearly to hear it.
Yeah.
But it's
definitely there. Yeah,
it's definitely there. I love that.
Yeah, maybe Jack Endino as a producer wasn't really used to mixing stuff like that, because he produced a lot of bands from that time and that place, which is like the late 1980s in Seattle. I don't think they did a lot of stuff like that.
No,
it was mostly a lot of loud guitars and a lot of screaming.
And not a lot of harmonies. And also I know that they only had 8 tracks, which also was a problem with some of the other songs for overdubbing stuff. So maybe that was something that they had a problem with here as well.
Yeah, maybe. Then again, the Beatles made Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band on, I think, 8 tracks, or maybe even 4.
Yeah, you're right.
There are complete orchestras on it, and I don't know what kind of trickery.
No, but I think that you're right in at least saying that the producer probably didn't have a lot of experience with that, and the band themselves either, because Kurt had experimented with overdubbing and stuff like that. He was interested in harmonies,
in pop music in general.
Definitely. Maybe he wasn't knowledgeable enough to really point out how he wanted it. That could have happened. I just think it's a shame. I would have loved to hear a version that had those harmonies really
focusing on harmony.
Perfected, especially because Kurt can do that so well, and his voice suits it. So yeah,
that's true. Yeah, I already mentioned the Beatles. Kurt himself said that he listened to the first American album of the Beatles, called With the Beatles, for I think 3 hours straight before he wrote this song. So he was definitely inspired by them.
Or it was a great story of him.
Or again, it was a great story.
But he loved the Beatles, and you can hear it in this song.
Yeah, but then he was a bit nervous to bring this song to the recording sessions, because, well, it's a lot of heavy rock music, and then he came up with this this pop tune. So he was afraid that the guys from the record label wouldn't accept it, but I don't think they ever said anything against it.
No, and he was right in being scared about that, because Sub Pop did want to get them into that more grungy, metal-y style. But like you say, I don't think that anyone had ever a problem with this song.
No.
And that's a testament to how good it is, I guess.
Yeah, or that Kurt was nervous for no real reason.
Yeah.
Because they had faith in him and his ability, so he could basically do whatever he wanted.
Yep.
Well, he probably couldn't do whatever he wanted, but putting a good song on his record was something that he could do for sure.
And this is also, which I've always found interesting, this is apparently the song that their later producer Butch Vig made interested in Nirvana, because he said that in an interview, because he wasn't like too much into their music. That just wasn't sort of his music to work with. But then he heard this song, and when he heard this one, he thought like, okay, so if they make this kind of music as well, then I can work with them, because there's something in there that I think I can work with them on.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So that was what drew him over the edge to work with them later on.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because Kurt had more songs like these.
Yep.
I mean, this is the only one on the album, but he had already written the song Polly, which ended up on the Nevermind album. He had a song called Sappy, which could have made it to every Nirvana album, was demoed for every album, it never made it on.
We'll definitely get back to that sometime in the future.
Definitely, yeah. So he wanted to explore his pop side a bit more. He already said that he liked REM a lot, which was more melodic music as well. Then to the theme of the song, I think it's about a girl. Oh no, that is how they came up with the title, right?
Exactly.
That he had written this song and then he played it for the other guys, and they said, "Oh, it's a nice song. What's it about?" He said it's about a girl, and the title stuck.
Yeah, because he didn't have a title yet, so and it's not about just a girl, but it was about his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. His girlfriend Tracy Miranda.
Yep.
Who, by the way, also made the picture on the front of the album. She took the picture. A few months later, I think, in February 1989. Something
like that.
I've got it somewhere in my notes.
We already talked about her last time, that she really supported the band and she went with them to gigs. Yeah. And apparently she took a lot of photographs, and this one ended up on the album.
And Kurt was basically living off her.
Yep.
I mean, she had a job. He refused to get a job. He refused to do anything in the house. And if they had a fight about it, he said, "Well, I could go live in my car. I would be just as happy." And one day, the story goes, she complained that he never wrote a song about her or for her. And then he sat down, put on the Beatles, and got out this song.
But at the same time, I think it's definitely an honest song, because if your girlfriend asks, like, "Do you want to write a song about me?" I don't think this is what she had in mind. But it feels like a pretty honest story about how he felt in their relationship, or in other relationships as well, or in general. But I
have an early version of it, where I think it's like a solo demo from Kurt, which has some different lyrics as well. So let's have a listen to that. It says, "I do live in constant fear. I do wonder why I'm here." He later changed that, but
but it's
We've talked quite a bit about the lyrics on this album, by the way. While Kurt himself always said that people shouldn't pay too much attention to it, shouldn't read too much into it, and most of the lyrics were written down last minute.
Yep.
Jack and Dino also said that for this album, sometimes he would just, jotting them down and say, "Oh, I've finished the lyrics, now I can do the vocals." But still, this is an example that he changed something, so he gave it at least some more thought.
Yeah, and I think, again, a lot of the, I just did it last minute is like the same talk that we touched upon before. Like, it sounds like nice and tough guy.
And I also think that it works the other way around as well. I mean, if you really don't care about the lyrics and really think that it doesn't mean anything, then you could, just make a first draft when you demo the song and then never think about it or change a word. But he did. Yeah,
he did, and I think that you can't say that Kurt is like the best lyric writer that was ever there in pop music, but he did have like a natural way with words, especially in combination with music. I think that the way that he uses words and rhythm is quite good. He uses a lot of rhyme, even though the lines aren't always really clear in meaning. He uses a lot of clear words. So for a lot of his songs, people will not know the entire lyrics, but they will know a couple of words and a couple of lines. Like we said already, he repeats a lot. He did know how to draw attention to certain words and stress certain moments in music by using words. So that's definitely a craft to do that.
Yeah. By the way, the album didn't come with a lyric sheet. I was listening to a different podcast the other day, which also talked about Bleach. The guys didn't like it, and one of their points of criticism was that they couldn't understand the words Kurt was singing. And I can get to that, but if you're like me, you've looked up the words.
Exactly.
And then if you know what he's singing, of course you can understand it and hear it. But if you've never heard it before, I can imagine that it's tough to understand him sometimes. Okay, so we go to the next track, School. Speaking of words, this song only has 15 words in it.
15 words, but more than enough.
Yeah, I think it shows how effective he could be as a songwriter, because the guitar riff is just 2 notes on one string that you could play with just one finger. Cool. And it sounds really cool. Yep. And he only uses 15 words, but he can, project a feeling with it.
Yep. And I think that's also obviously the way he sings it, because I was saying he's effective with words in combination with music, but it's also the emotion that's in there. This is a song that has, like you say, 15 words, and if you have no idea what it's about, then listening to those words and then in combination with the way he sings it, you at least get a feeling for what he means. The emotion in this song is incredibly strong.
Yeah, it's always been, I think, a live favorite for a lot of fans.
Yep.
They played it a lot in their live shows. Yep. Yeah.
Like the groove of this song is great. And the fact that it's so sparse in words would make it really interesting live, because there's so much you can do with it.
Yeah. And also, I've read somewhere that Kurt liked to keep his lyrics pretty simple, and sometimes just one verse repeated over and over again, because he had to perform the songs live and had to memorize all the words. And so he was already thinking about that as well. And in this case, he didn't need more, I think.
No,
to describe his feelings, which were apparently not about school as much as about the Seattle scene. They kind of belonged to, but never really fit in.
Yep. And that felt like school for him.
Yeah, like he was in high school again with the groups and people staring at each other and trying to be cool and try to fit in, and he probably never felt that he really did. And and that's what the line "Won't you believe it? Just my luck" is like. Oh my God, I'm back in high school again. Dripping with sarcasm, of course. I think I've read that he even wanted to call this song the Seattle scene at one point.
Oh wow!
But decided against it. Maybe because he knew that he would get a lot of shit from it in the Seattle scene. They were putting this out on Sub Pop Records. They were still playing shows around that area. They were still interacting with bands that belonged to the Seattle scene.
Yeah. Even though it's interesting that I think that this song was written and recorded before they were really into that scene, because it was just starting out. So he already had that feeling quite soon, I think. And I also find it really interesting that the song that is most against the whole Seattle scene grunge thing also sounds the most Seattle grunge thing, because this is like the most Pearl Jammy Soundgarden-y thing you can find.
Yeah, maybe he did it on purpose.
Yeah, like, could be.
I'm gonna show them that how easy it is to write a song like that. Possibly, yeah. I've also read that somebody said, he decided to call it School because that's. Not a lot of people can identify with somebody having something against the Seattle scene.
Yep.
But a lot of people can identify with a song that has something against school.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think it's one of the standout songs from the album. I think.
Definitely.
Anything else in your notes about this track?
No, I think most things we talked about already. Again, that not just the fact that it doesn't have a lot of text, but also the repeat of a line, especially at the end of a song. That's again, it's in here, and that's so typically Nirvana.
Yeah. We're going to listen to just a bit of the end of the song because now we're only listening to the intros and the first songs, and we can skip through it, and then we go straight on to Love Buzz. I forgot I had lined this one up so it would start around the middle because we already listened to the first part in the previous episode when we discussed it in the single version. And I think this is the same recording as the single version, but a different mix. Different mix. And it also doesn't have the sound collage at the beginning.
Yep.
Apparently because Kurt forgot to bring his cassette where he made it on. And it's not just in the intro. I think in the
it's in the instrumental middle, what we just
break.
Heard.
In the middle part, somewhere in the mix of the single version, there's also some sound collage going on, and in this version there isn't. But apart from that, it's the same recording.
You hear a bit in the middle of it. Sounds like Kurt's speaking backwards or something like that. That's sort of part of that sound collage.
Yeah, which is, by the way, also a very Beatle-y thing to do.
Definitely.
I mean, they experimented with that a lot, both with sound collages and with weird voices or effects or reversing lines or even guitar solos, which Nirvana I think never did. But he also took a leaf from the Beatles book there. Yeah,
and since this is already a really a song with a 60s sound, because the original was from the end of the 60s, it actually fits quite well here, I think. We also need to, not rectify something that we said last time, but we were talking about that Chris Novoselic found the single, the original one. And we were speculating he was in Europe and he knew more about music, so he probably found it there.
Yeah.
I actually found an interview in which he told about how he found the single, and he actually found it in Aberdeen.
Okay.
So. There was apparently a second-hand store that they frequented a lot and was really well known in Aberdeen. And apparently they had the original single of Love Buzz. And he found it there and loved it and played it to Kurt, and this happened.
Okay, so
now we know.
Yeah, just to set the record straight. Yeah. By the way, this is another example in which Kurt kept the lyrics really simple, because he only took the first verse of the original song and just changed it up a bit and then repeated that over and over again. If you listen to the actual original version by Shocking Blue, then you'll hear that there's completely different verses in it as well, but he just, to the core of the song. Yep. By the way, Robbie van Leeuwen, the writer of the song, called this an inferior version.
Really?
Yeah.
Aww.
He wasn't much into it. Didn't care for it much, but
no, that's a shame. I think his version is great, but this is a different version.
Yeah.
Which is also great.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's a completely different song than the other songs in the album.
And I like, and I think that ties in with what you were saying about how Kurt only took like the first verse of this song. That fits again the way he sings it, because the original is quite serious in its delivery of the text, and it feels that like Kurt doesn't take it that seriously. I like how he sort of mocks it.
Queen of my heart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like it feels like as if he's sort of like trying to mock, like hitting on some girl somewhere, something like that. It's like he's mocking those. Oh yeah, I love you and you're great, and do you want to go home with me and stuff like that. I mean, that's sort of the way he sings it. Yeah, which I really like about this song. He doesn't take the lyrics seriously.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's the only cover song that ever appeared on the Nirvana studio album, I think. And also, it's the only song in which they actually tuned their guitars up.
Yeah,
we already talked about the tuning on this album, and Blue they tuned it down. But in this case, they tuned it up for some reason. I don't really know why you would do that, because you can play the higher notes and chords on a lower tuned guitar, but apparently it sounded better, or it made it easier to play.
Made it easier to play, probably, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not a guitar player, so.
No, I'm a mediocre guitar player, so exactly. I wouldn't know either. I can't do the really fast pull-offs that he does.
Right. No, that's,
yeah. I tried to look them up the other day, and somebody had something to say about it on the Nirvana Reddit page, and then somebody else commented on it that he had read that this recording is actually sped up.
Okay.
But it's not.
Okay.
In the end, everybody agreed that it's not, but. Everybody could see why somebody would think that, because it's in a higher key than all of the other songs, and he does do it really fast.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but he was a good guitar player, so.
Yeah, he was better than he wanted people to think.
Exactly.
And then people took him for.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty good.
Maybe it's also interesting to mention before we continue that when this album first was released in the UK, that this song was actually not on there.
No, they decided to leave off the single for a reason unknown to us.
I think the official reason was that it was in the Singles Club, so it couldn't be on the album. But that doesn't make sense because it was on the US album. So why it couldn't be? Maybe they couldn't get like the rights cleared for Europe. That could be. Yeah. Possibly. Just to be clear on the album side, so there is a version that didn't have this song on there.
Yeah, right. So next track, Paper Cuts. I think this is one of the darkest songs, not only on this album, but from their complete catalog. Yeah, it's based on a true story.
Yeah, apparently.
There was a family in Aberdeen that held one of the children, or maybe all of the children, locked up in their room for years. I think.
For years, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Kurt maybe heard about it on the street or read about it in the newspaper, and based this song on it.
It's one of those songs that both in text and in music needs a couple of listens before you get into it. It's easy to overlook because it's not easy to get into. Yeah. There is a lot happening, but once you take the time to listen to it more often, then it's a song that you start to appreciate more and more, I think. It's not an easy listen.
No, it's not. No, it's in stark contrast with Love Buzz, the song that came right before this one. it's like the horror episode of the song somewhere in between. I mean, for Floyd the Barber, like we said, that's more funny than really scary or haunting. But this is also the lyrics are very dark, but also the vocals he does, the scratching sounds of the guitar. I think it's
If you have no idea what this song is about, again, you can feel the emotion, definitely.
Yeah.
And this is also one of the Dale Crover versions, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I think they didn't even try this one, I think.
Oh, that could also be true. I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of those things we don't really know because they had limited studio time. They only did 4 sessions of around 5 hours.
Yeah.
And also they were limited by the amount of money they could spend.
Yeah.
Like we talked about before, which meant that sometimes they didn't want to buy an extra reel of tape. So if they recorded something and they didn't like it, a lot of the times they taped over it.
Yep.
So we don't have a lot of
extra versions.
No extra versions or something, or that halfway the song they cut it off because somebody made a big mistake or whatever. We don't have a lot of extra stuff from this album, which I think is a shame because it would have made a very interesting listen.
Yeah, definitely. Fun facts about this song. Not a fun song, but fun fact. This is the only song that has the word Nirvana in it.
Oh, that's in my notes as well.
Yeah. Which is nice.
Yeah, and also interesting that it's, like I said, one of the most dark songs, and that's where he uses the pretty light name of the band. Yeah. Also, we can hear another version from this song because there's an earlier version of it out there, and I think this is again from the Love Bus sessions, which would mean that it's Chad Channing who drums it. I'm not 100% sure. What I do know is that again it's in a different key,
right?
So they form it, I think, half a step higher than the album version. Yeah, so again, they decided to try this song in a different key. I don't know why they tried that for a demo or why they in the end decided to use the key they did, but I think it's interesting that they switched it up.
Yeah, and it has, even though it's only a small difference, it has a different feel to it, I think.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah, not that this is more happy, but it's sort of... it also has to do with the vocals. They're a bit slightly more clear, I think, and a bit more open, I'd say, than the version that's on the album.
Yeah, and I do think it's great to hear that the squealing bit he does. It's not by accident.
No.
I mean, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah,
he
definitely.
knew what he could do with his voice.
Yeah.
And you can hear that because he did it on the earlier demo as well.
Exactly.
Also, Jack Endino later said that he did most of the vocals in one take.
Yep.
So he was really good at it.
Yep.
And a lot of people think that all he could do was scream, and he wasn't really a good singer. And technically, maybe he wasn't, but he knew what he wanted to do, and he was able to do that.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think that's what matters.
Exactly. It's. I think it's different from like the punk mentality, where it was more or less the screaming that went on in there. I mean, there were exceptions, obviously, but that was more like, we're like anarchists and we'll try everything. But Kurt definitely went beyond that and studied that and made his own version of that.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. And like you say, I think it's really an interesting remark. Like, he did that on the first demo and I did it here again, so he knew what he was doing and what sort of effect he wanted to have.
Yeah, he wasn't improvising in the studio, or it wasn't a lucky shot.
No.
So that was a paper cut. If I'm correct, this is the closing track of side A on the original version.
Exactly.
Album, right?
Yeah.
Because we're doing the re-release with the 2 extra tracks, we have an extra track on side A as well.
Yep.
Which is Negative Creep. Yeah, so this would have been the opening song for side B.
Yep.
How do you like it?
It's a bit too straightforward for me, I think. It doesn't show off what Nirvana can do.
Yeah. And do you mean lyrically or musically or both?
I think both, yeah. It's not bad, but it's...
Yeah, well, I think the lyrics are bad. I mean...
Yeah, okay.
In all of the other songs we just heard, there was something funny or clever or at least effective. And here just, I'm a negative creep and I'm stoned. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, I can...
But
I see why it appeals to 15-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly.
I think...
But he dismissed it later on himself, I think, Kurt Cobain.
But didn't they keep on playing it?
Yeah, but he apparently said in an interview that although he liked the song itself, he wasn't proud of the lyrics, but he was trying to be a Sex Pistols, Johnny Rotten kind of guy.
Sure.
So that was what he was going for, and that worked well, but it wasn't really...
I think he was too intelligent and layered and artistic for that to keep on doing that. I mean,
and also I think that what he probably missed here, the interesting thing is we were just talking about how he had a sense of humor, and if you look at the Sex Pistols and Johnny Rotten, they were like, all of it was fake. It was full of weird humor, and it was like a pose, and I think in this song, I think Kurt sort of got it wrong and took that Sex Pistol thing seriously. And that's why it turned out so badly lyrics-wise and also slightly music-wise, because it just, like, a serious version of the Sex Pistols makes no sense because it's just dumb. That
would be a great title for a song.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the same story as the song "Creep" from Radiohead, which was also like really too on the nose, and they later dismissed it. But then again, a lot of people liked it. I mean, just singing "I'm a creep" apparently appeals to some people.
Yeah, but the weird thing with the Radiohead song is that because the music and the lyrics feel like opposites, you think that it might be ironic. While in this case, music and lyrics are so straightforward that there's no opposition there or no irony or whatever.
Yeah, but I do remember that somebody once said in an interview that Kurt didn't really thought he was the first person in this song, because he wrote it about somebody, a neighbor or something like that, who he saw as a guy who would, go around his life as a negative creep. Yeah.
Right, could be.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the story, by the way, about the guitar thing in the Radiohead song from Creep? Right before the chorus, the guitar comes in, really like... The story is that the guitarist didn't like the song, and he tried to ruin the recording by doing that, and then they kept it in.
Yeah, because that's one of the best things of the song. It's great.
True, but then again, I don't know if that's an actual fact or it's myth making once more. I don't know. I've dug up an interesting cover version of this song by Machine Head.
Okay,
I specifically chose this one because I think it's such a metal-y sounding song, and well, Machine Head is a metal band, and they really bring that forward.
This is out of my reach, this is out of my reach, this is out of my reach, and it's gone. This is getting the free, this is getting the free, this is getting the free, I'm thrown. I'm a negative freak, I'm a negative freak, I'm a negative freak, but I'm stoned. I'm a negative freak, I'm a negative freak, I'm a negative freak, but
I see you're bobbing your head a bit.
Yeah, I never heard this one, and this is so much better.
You think it's better than the Nirvana version?
Yeah, because it's like, okay, it feels like they got the song and made it into what it should have been.
Yeah, because it's a metal song and they're a metal band. And
and it's really it's really tight, and where I think that the Nirvana version feels sort of it's not quite there, and this one is nice. Yeah,
okay.
Great.
Cool. Glad you like it.
Yeah.
I'm not a very big metal fan, so I mean I thought it was fun to listen to it, but it's not something that I will play on a daily basis.
But do you think it's better than the original, or?
Yeah, I think it better serves the song, but it's not just the style that I like.
No.
And well, in fact, I must say that Nirvana is pretty much the loudest rock music that I appreciate.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, for a lot of people, it's the most light and pop
exactly. Yeah.
side of the music that I like. But to me, I like a lot of more quiet music and more pop music and even country music and singer-songwriter stuff. So to me, Nirvana is like the end of the line.
Exactly.
And so this is a bit across the line.
I get
over the line, yeah. But yeah, they definitely made it work. There are quite a lot of covers from this song. Yeah.
It's interesting. I wouldn't have imagined that too.
I even found one by Didi Ramone.
Oh, right.
I haven't lined it up, but I can check for you if you want to.
Yeah,
I can imagine that's something that you're interested in. Well, all you would have to do is say something interesting. So I have
have a fun fact. While
while you share the fun fact, I will see if I can find that version.
Well, apparently there's. We were talking before about how Kurt got his lyrics and stuff like that.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I was faster than you. So that was Didi Ramone already. Okay.
That sounds like Didi Ramone. No, apparently that line, like Daddy's little girl ain't the girl no more, is probably came to him because there was a Mudhoney song, Sweet Young Thing Ain't So Sweet No More, which is...
and that's a song that I did line up.
That's good.
Okay, so first we're going to go have a listen to Sweet Young Thing Ain't Sweet No More by Mudhoney, which is a song that came out the same year, I think.
Exactly.
Or maybe a year before that, on the same label.
Yeah. So that song was already out there before they recorded this one. So it could have been that line was in the back of Kurt's head, and that's why he came up with this one.
Yeah, okay, let's have a listen to Mudhoney first, and then we switch to Didi Ramone. I've read that he got some criticism for quote unquote stealing the line, which I think is ridiculous.
It's not the same.
It's not the same words. It's not the same music. It's just the same structure of one sentence.
Exactly, and this is typically something that, like I said, is probably in the back of your mind and sort of unconsciously pops up while you're writing, and even if he did plagiarize it by making his own version of it, then it's still
that happens all the time. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can find a sentence like that in in rock history way before Mudhoney came up with it. I mean, I don't know from the top of my head an example, but
there's probably a lot more of those. Yeah.
If you do know a line like that from rock history, you can let us know. Yeah, you can send us an email on sherwoodpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you think, what's that weird email address, then you haven't listened to the first episode.
No, that's right. There is explained. Or you haven't listened to the Robin of Sherwood podcast, which is not a podcast that I make about the TV show Robin of Sherwood. And I was too lazy to make another email address. So if you want to reach out to us, send an email to sherwoodpodcast@gmail.com. Or find us on Facebook. If you just go looking for Nirvana Podcast, then we should come up pretty soon. So we've listened to Mudhoney. Now all that's left to do is listen to Negative Creep by Dee Dee Ramone from the Ramones.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So, how do you compare this one to Nirvana and or Machine Head?
They made it into a Ramones song, which is excellent. I'm not sure if it really works.
No, his voice sounds really weird.
Yeah, I do want to listen to all of those covers now, because apparently there's something in this song that makes it easy to sort of adjust it to the style of your own band, which is kind of interesting. But this again, one doesn't work for me.
So I think that brings us to the end of side A of the Bleach album. I think we've talked about it
quite enough.
At least 3 times as long as the actual 7 songs are. Want to do like a evaluation of the first side, or want to wait do that at the end of the album?
Well, we can conclude at least by saying that, for me at least, this is a really good A-side and introduction to a new band. We have heard a lot of different sides of the band. I think actually we basically had all of the different things that Nirvana can do at this point in their career on the whole A-side, which I think is great.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, we have like the heavy sounding rock with Negative Creep and Floyd the Barber and School as well, and we had the pop tunes of About a Girl and Love Buzz, and a bit of some songs in between like Blue. And then we have Paper Cuts, which really is like their dark side.
Yep.
A more, maybe even more artistic side. Yeah. So go listen to side A of Bleach, everybody, if you haven't already, or maybe you haven't done it in quite some time, because it's a 30-year-old record. Last summer with their 30th birthday.
And it's well worth the re-listen if you haven't listened to it in a long time. It's there's so much interesting stuff on there that you might not have picked up on. So do take a listen. And if you hear something on there that you think is interesting and we haven't talked about, then let us know. Yeah,
and also if you have made your own cover version of Negative Creep, let us know. Then
or if you're inspired now to make it, go make it and send it to us.
Yeah. Then if we get enough, then we're going to do a complete episode dedicated to Negative Creep covers.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, nice. or not.
Or not.
Anyway, Juditje, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me again.
Podcast. Thank you everybody for listening. Also, I want to thank Joep Hullegie for playing our theme music on the piano. You can check out his channel Nirvana Piano or Piano Nirvana. I still haven't looked that one up. On which he plays virtually every Nirvana song on a piano.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's a great listen.
Yeah. And also, if you're enjoying our podcast, then please rate us, subscribe to us, stuff like that, because that makes it easier for other people to find this podcast as well. So please do.
Yeah, well said. Thank you for listening, and till next time.